Welcome back to Coding with Guy Francisco Poland. That's me. Before we get into our email query blaster application, just a couple housekeeping measures here. You'll notice if you watch the last couple videos that the development environment here looks different. Well, it's exactly the same. What I did on the recommendation of a friend is change the background to be dark because I'm told that it looks better on video. You could be the judge. So all I did was under options, it's actually the first one. This is what it looked like before. If you watch the other videos, give it a sec. Okay. And I simply changed it to be dark. It doesn't matter to me as a coder, at least not yet, but we'll see how it goes. The other thing is, in the last video, I did mention that if you're an aspiring writer and you really don't care what your day job is, that this type of work that I'm doing here is actually pretty good because it can often allow you to organize your time. I just want to clarify, I'm not saying that you should shirk your responsibilities in your day job so you can write. Not suggesting that at all. So don't go there. I'm just saying that given the right employment situation, the right scenario, it's just easier to carve out time for writing if you're on deadlines instead of certain jobs like I don't know, I'm not putting down retail or anything, but there's certain jobs where you just can't get away from, and this is not one of them. But it all depends on your employment situation, of course. Last thing, I did actually create a video where I split apart my script my script blaster application and the shopping list application, and I actually deleted that video for various reasons. But as you can see up here, now it's just email query blaster. I think before it said something like Guy email shopping or something. So that's all this does now. It's just an email query blaster application. So I just want to get into that and just explain quickly what the concept is. So if you are a screenwriter, you might know that there are certain services out there where people have a database of contacts, and you provide that person with a query letter, log line, or whatever you think that person needs, or what you think will sell your script or entice somebody to read it, request it. And you pay the person whatever, $100, $150. It's a one-time shot, and hopefully you'll get some interest out of that. Here's a service that I've used before called Script Delivery, and they're not really looking too good these days. It says your connection is not private, blah, 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 etc., etc. Attackers might be trying to, okay, and then ask if I want to advance, and I'm going to say no. I don't feel comfortable about this. I'm not sure what's going on with them. Over here is, this is a site run by Ashley Scott Myers, and if you look down here, he has different pricing levels. I think here's one for 109, and that depends if you want to just query managers only, or I'm not going to read it out loud. You can go here and you can freeze or pause the video and read this if you want to. But anyways, down here at $159, I think that's we had an entire blast, and that includes this entire database. Well, the purpose of my application is to take what he's doing here and basically transfer that to the screenwriter, to the writer. So you do your own query blasts. You do them as many times as you like, as often as you like, and you're not really tied down to some pricing structure, which is only a one-time shot anyways. So, yeah. So the best thing to do, let me just go ahead and run it, and I'm going to try and balance this so my writer friends won't get too bored with the technical stuff. At some point, I'm going to get into some database stuff, and if I can remember, I'll just tell you that, you can probably just duck out of the video. And like my friends who are into the software development, they might want to stick around for that. But anyhow, let me go ahead and just run this application. Now, real quick, using a SQL Server database for Microsoft, the entire development environment is Microsoft Visual Studio. And I think it's called the Community Edition. It's the free one. You can download this if you wanted to. And yeah, Community Edition 2019. And over here on the right-hand side, you have the solution. This is where we put my code. So let me go ahead and run this. and I'm going to log in as myself, and I don't really have any actual authorization authentication here. I'm just really capturing values. That'll come later. But so we go to our main screen, and I just noticed I have my name up here. See, this is a pet project. I got my name in here, but I'm going to take that out. So anyways, it'll probably just say email list or something like that. Anyhow, so you come in here, and you can choose a script to query. And not only are you choosing the script, but this is going to appear in the subject line. So it is possible to write like query : Cold Harbor, for example. I don't know if I recommend that, but it actually has a dual purpose. It's a script and a subject line. So this will appear in the subject line. Let me just go back to Cold Harbor. And here I actually haven't pasted in my query letter. I'm actually doing that under Create Email Body. Yeah, it's thinking. So I'll either type my query letter in, or in this case, I pasted it and I hit carriage return where I felt I needed to go to a new line, and I put dummy data down here, guy test 1. So because I obviously don't want to put the real stuff in. I save it, and then when I come back over here, that's what you see. And this is read only, and I created a separate tab because I just think it's easier to see your letter as if you're looking at, I don't know, Microsoft Word or Notepad or something. You can get a kind of a bird's eye view as you write it. Even this is a little awkward. I mean, I think you can expand it out a little. But this is basically so you can come here and you can review your query before it's sent out. Anyhow, so I'll choose Cold Harbor, and this is the query letter for it. And I'm using test emails, obviously. Guy Poland test 1. Let me go ahead and send myself a test email. And if I do this, everything looks good. I click send emails. And if I come over to, and there it is, Cold Harbor. Yep, 0 minutes ago. And it's got my bogus information. That's good. So that's the basic concept. Now I only have three contacts in here, but I mean, you have to imagine there's going to be hundreds and thousands at some point. The admin users, I'll probably take that off or create a separate solution for that, but I'm going to leave it in there for now. That's just where I create users. I have another tab here to enter in scripts. So let's go ahead. You can delete them, edit them. I'm going to delete this. And okay, let me create a new script. I'm going to say that I wrote The Godfather. I bet you didn't know that I wrote The Godfather. Pretty impressive, huh? So I add it here, and I come back here. It should now appear in the list, and it does. So I'm going to go back and delete that, or some nut out there thinks that I'm actually claiming that I wrote The Godfather. Okay, so that's the basic premise of this, and there's a lot of functionality that I'm working on. And I did create 3. It ended up being 4 bullet points to make this better, and I did write them down. Here they are. And I think I'm going to tackle this one first because it was just so easy to fix. So it says validate select script to query dropdown, halt processing if no value was chosen. So what the problem was is that I was able to send a query letter with nothing in the subject line. So you can imagine that would be embarrassing if you sent out hundreds of query letters and you forgot to choose a script, right? Not good. So all I did was I just put a piece of, I think it's a jQuery or something in there, and if I try to send something without choosing a value, it should get a nice nasty message up there telling me, yep, you have errors, please fix, and then right here you must choose a script from the drop-down list. Okay, so everything stops until, let's go ahead, I'll send myself another one, and it goes away. Okay, so let me go back. I'm going to just put a strike through on that. Done. The normalized data, that's the technical database stuff. I'm going to save that to the end. For my writer buddies out there, probably wouldn't be interested. If you are, you can stick around. That's fine. So now I'm kind of torn between 1 and 2, what I should do first. So let's do the first one. So close space between rows of data. Reduce padding to better utilize screen real estate, maybe widen the grid a little. So when I look at this, I don't know. There seems like there's a lot of space between names here. And if I right click, I can actually look at what's going on behind the scenes. I go to inspect, and I go over to computed, and let me scroll down. So there's my table data cell. So this data is being held inside a table. Think of it as a spreadsheet, basically. Only, yeah, the concept is the same as an Excel spreadsheet. You got rows and columns. Okay, and a TD is a table data cell. It's like a cell in Excel. All right. So if I look over here, padding is just space. I got 8 pixels all around. And that's a lot. I mean, if you just look at the bottom and the top, that's 16 pixels. And as I mentioned before, I only have 3 entries here, but eventually I want to have hundreds, maybe thousands. And I'm going to need pagination. And if I've got 30 entries on this screen with all this space, I don't think that's not going to look too good. I need to tighten this up, and I might even expand this out, see how this is stacked here. If I go to edit, well, no, I don't want to do that. So this is kind of stacked here, and if I had a real long company name, I didn't do it here, but it'll stack. You know, like if I actually spelled it incorporated, time management, blah blah blah, then this would be like two rows of data, 2 lines, and it would get even more unruly. So here's what I'm going to do. And if you are a budding programmer, this is how you learn stuff. You look at stuff and you don't like it, and you're like, well, how do I fix this? So I did a little research because I don't want to be spending time researching when I can just show you what I did. So I do know that this table has what's called a class, and that's a cascading style sheet. And basically what that does, it can do a lot of things, but it can determine how much padding is in a cell, colors, sizing of tables, all the look and feel that you see in a website. A lot of that, most of that is done with cascading style sheets. And that's what the class here refers to. So I'm like, well, what does this mean exactly? Talk to you later, Catherine. Sorry. So I'm going to go Control C. I'm going to go over to Google, and I have a suspicion of what this is. There's the primary style sheet is something called Bootstrap, and it's just pretty awesome. You can do a lot of stuff with it. Yeah, so I'm going to go Control V, and if I look at my results, I see Bootstrap all the way down here. So I know I'm on the right track, and I'm using a specific version of Bootstrap, so I want to make sure. Here it is, Bootstrap. I want to make sure that I'm looking at the documentation that's either exact or pretty darn close. So let me just put in Control C, and all right, so tables Bootstrap. I think, well, I know this is right. In fact, I visited it recently. So if I come in, and I can see that I'm definitely on the right track if I scroll down. So yeah, let me find a good example here. So table dash striped. So if you're in a website and you see kind of alternating shades, it could be using this table dash striped. And here we have bordered tables, borderless tables. You can also can be used on dark tables. So you can see how this table class can be used to, add coloring and shading and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, here's like, they give you kind of a list here. So what I want to do, let me just see if I can find a better, I don't know if that's really the best page or not. It probably is. Let me just poke around for a second, bear with me. No, that's pretty good, yep. So, well, it does say 3.4, so that's probably not the best page. Let me maybe condensed table. All right, I think I hit the jackpot here. So yeah, this is a good example. This is not the documentation for Bootstrap, but you can see here we have your base classes table, and we have extensions. And I know this is what I want because I already did the research. And I can see right here, this is actually from W3 Schools, but and I didn't know this was here. I got lucked out. I just saw it, and you can see that the version right here is exactly what I'm using. So table condense makes a table more compact by cutting cell padding in half. That sounds exactly what I want. So if I come back here, let's kind of get a visual on this, and how, in fact, I don't want to get, okay, just get a good visual on this. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to find my page that's displaying data. I'm going to come in and make sure I got I want to make sure, okay, it's a dash condensed. Okay, just want to make sure the syntax is right, because if I were to put like a dot here, condensed, that's not going to work. So it's got to be, and there it is. All right, so I'm going to do this, put that in. I'm going to save this. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to refresh the page. I just get a good visual, and let's see if this tightens up at all. So here we go. And it does. That's a lot better. So if I go and inspect this element, and I come over to my debugger, and I go over to computed, I can now see that it's 5 pixels instead of 8. It didn't actually cut it in half, but maybe internally it thinks it did. I don't know. So that's looking pretty good. So now my next question is do I want to widen this grid? And my first inclination was that I did, because, well, let me see if I can Buck Inc. Best company in Los Angeles. All right. So yeah, so you can kind of see how it's starting to stack now. And I thought, well, if I widen this grid, then I can get this on one line, but it's kind of it's kind of wide as it is, to be honest with you. But here's my thought. So in the previous video, I pointed out that I have a space here for requested script. Somebody says, yes, send me your script. But I honestly had to admit I hadn't really thought that through too well. So what I'm going to do in future videos, future development, I'm actually going to create a new link up here that goes to a new page, and that all that'll do is track requests and submissions and map your script to a particular producer, manager, agent, and that's it. So what I'm getting at here is I don't really need this column here, because it's going to be somewhere else, requested script, and I don't need the requested date because that information will be on a new page. I'm probably going to leave requested here. I kind of envision that if someone requests a script, if Joe Buck requests a script, I can have a little link here. You just say yes, and when I click on that, that'll take me to the other page, and it'll drill down, and it'll tell me exactly what scripts Joe Buck requested, when I sent them, and what the results were. So let me take this column out and requested script and requested date, and see if this kind of tightens it up without actually physically widening this grid. So let's go in to our index page, this CS HTML. So you're probably familiar with HTML, but the CS means C#. That's the programming language that's mixed in here. So for example, it's all over the place. this is C# right here, and this maps the data to the database, and everything else around it is HTML. So, all right, so let's go ahead and find those two columns. So here is requested script. So I'm just going to come in. I'm going to delete it out, and then that's actually the column header. And if I come down here, I find requested script again, and this is the actual data, of which there is none. So that's one. So let's go up and find the script requested date. That's the header or the column header. Delete that out, and here it is, requested date, your table data. Let's go ahead and delete that out. Excuse me. Let's save that. Let's go back. Let's get a visual on the screen here. And let's go refresh the page and see how it looks. Much, much better. So I'm starting to be happy with this page. I think maybe stacking first over name, like a carriage return here, would probably be a good idea, just to kind of make things better. But I'm going to say this is looking pretty good. So yeah, so let's go back and let's go ahead and straight through, meaning I'm done. And let's go to number 2. Improve the checkbox toggle. When checked, filter down to the user that is logged in. Conversely, show all data when not checked. Okay, so here's my thoughts on this, just to recap. So I have a little checkmark box which finds the user that's logged in. In this case, that's me, Guy Poland. I logged in as G Poland, and my company type is just myself. And if I click on this, it highlights it and puts the check mark there. So the reason I did this is because before you send out hundreds of thousands of emails, you probably want to test it and send yourself a sample email just to make sure everything's good. So that's the whole reason behind it. So I guess I could go ahead and send another one. All right, well, there's one right there. So there's, okay, so that was the one I sent 12 minutes ago. And here's the one that I sent just now. And it looks great. So pretty simple concept behind that. The problem with this is that I got to thinking, I only have 3 contacts, but eventually I plan on having hundreds and thousands of contacts, and Guy Poland might not even be on this initial page. You know, if I have pagination, which is I'm gonna need, I could be on page 10 down the road. So what I really need to do here is I need to actually requery my data. So there's only one row here, and that is me, Guy Poland, the logged in user, and only myself. So let me go ahead and stop the application. And I did some pre-coding here, again, so I don't bore you with watching me code all this stuff. So let me go to, here, I'm in the right place. So right down here, okay, here's my function called find user. And all this code is doing here is what you just saw. It's highlighting the row and it's checking the checkbox. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm not going to delete it right now, but I'm going to go ahead and comment it out, which has the same effect, essentially, as deleting it. And here's the new code that I wrote. I'm going to re-enable this. Let's go ahead and build, make sure there's no errors. And now what should happen, let's go ahead and run this again. What should happen is when I check, let me just log in real quick. What should happen is when I check this find user, it should query, so there's only one row here, and that's myself. And when I check it again, all the data should come back. So let's see if it works. And it does. So I took off the yellow highlights because I don't think we really need it now. It's just one row. And I guess I could auto check it, but I don't know. So anyways, I can go ahead and oops, See, I am so glad I put that in there. I'm not going to go ahead and send another email. You get the idea. So, what I'm doing here, technically, and we're almost to the point now where my writer friends can duck out, but you might find this interesting, or maybe not. So, sorry, Chris. Talk to you later. So when the page loads, basically what this code's doing is it's asking for a condition. Okay, if there's one row, and that row is the user that's logged in, keep this box checked. Otherwise, uncheck it. Because there's no way when the page reloads, well, there's different ways to maintain that box being checked, but I just like this. So when I check it, and there's one row, and that row is the person who's logged in, keep this checked. Otherwise, uncheck it. So this is basically the gist of it. In future videos, let me go back over to my Word document. I'm going to say this is done. And I'm about to get into the normalization of data. At this point, fellow writers, if you want to stick around, great. If not, that's fine too. So here's one thing that I'm going to be working on in the future that will interest writers. So right now, if I come in here and I've got my query here, and it's for Cold Harbor. So what happens if I accidentally choose the wrong script? I choose Hotel Flughafen, and I blast this out to hundreds of people. So now I've got a mismatch. I've got a query letter that doesn't match the title of my script, and can you imagine that's the embarrassment that would follow from that? So what I think is I'm going to do, what I think for sure I'm going to do is I'm going to think of a way that will marry this query letter to a particular script. So, for example, if I marry this query letter to Cold Harbor, and I try and send this email, I'll get a pop-up box that'll tell me, oh, wait a minute. So you have a mismatch here. You have your script and your query letter. They don't go together, okay? So it's more kind of idiot proofing, and I think that's kind of critical, more than critical, I think. Could be very easily to select the wrong script, right? I mean, you're in a hurry, whatever, you get distracted. You select the wrong script, it doesn't match your query letter, and all of a sudden you got a mismatch and a lot of explaining to do. Not good. So I'm thinking in a future under create email body of this would be a good place to implement that kind of functionality somewhere in here. So if you put a query letter here, you would have, I don't know, maybe a list of your scripts on the right-hand side or something, and you would like maybe check the ones that are relevant, and when you click save, then this query letter would map to whatever scripts you checked over here. And when you come back over here, I'm using an example, Cold Harbor. Once I did that, and I accidentally choose Hotel Flughafen, and I try to send the email, it'll stop right there, and save yourself a lot of embarrassment. So look for that in a future video, probably in the next video. If you are a writer and you have things that you want seen in here, drop me a comment or something. You will have the ability to create your own records, and when you do that, they'll be color-coded in some way, maybe in yellow, I don't know. So that way, if you go in and you log in, you can actually see at a glance which records are yours that you put into the database and which ones were seeded already. So at this point, I'm going to say, look, if you're a writer, go ahead and in good conscience, you can go ahead and drop out now. I'm going to get into how I normalize some of this data to make it have greater integrity and less redundancy. So, all right, writers, thanks for watching. Stick around if you have the fortitude. So, in my last video, I made a point of saying I hadn't normalized my data. And if I go to my master email list, you'll notice which is kind of defunct now, by the way. You'll notice that I have 2 Chris Joneses in here, and they're all in the same table, which isn't good. And the problem is there's redundant. This data is redundant, meaning uh, if Chris Jones decides to change his first name, like say to Greg, that's kind of a problem because let me go ahead and refresh this because it didn't take. Let me try that again. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not saving, but now I have 2 places I have to change Chris to Greg instead of 1 place, and my database has a unique ID for each Chris. Okay, when I enter data in, it created it for me. So 4002 is different from 4003. So my database thinks, if it could talk, it would tell you that these 2 Chris Joneses are different people, even though you and I know they're the same person. So we've got redundancy. We've got 2 Chris Joneses when this Chris Jones is unique to the world. There are many Chris Joneses, but this guy's unique, and we don't need him in here twice. And my database thinks they're different. So essentially, I created 2 tables, and I actually could have taken this a lot further, but for now, I think this is okay. I'm not dealing with big video files, so I'm not worried about taking up a lot of database space. It's all text at this point. So I have a master contact list. Let me go ahead and refresh this page. So I've got Ratso Rizzo and Joe Buck, which are 2 famous characters in a famous movie. You probably have heard of it, unless your name happens to be. No, I can't say. Okay. So each of these people map to a detail in here. So if I look at Ratso Rizzo, he has an ID, a unique ID of 2003. That maps to 2003 in this table. And here's his information. So this is going to be fairly easy to demonstrate. So I'm going to add, all right, did I close the application? No, okay. So I'm going to add another Ratso Rizzo here with a different email address because obviously we live in a world now where people have multiple email addresses. So that's completely within bounds. So we go create new. And here we have a requested script. I need to take that off. But Ratso Rizzo. I'm going to go back because I can't remember what the. Okay, Rizzo Inc. Okay. All right. So Inc. And I'm just going to. It doesn't really matter. Okay. I'm going to say. Yeah, his new email address is rat at. Wait, what was the old one? Let me try Rizzo at Rizzo. You know what? I've accidentally sent emails out before. Let me just use mine. We'll do test 3 this time. Let's go ahead and create this. Okay, so now we have 2 Ratso Rizzos. They are the same exact person. My database knows that. If I come back and I come over to my contact list, whereas before you notice I had 2 Chris Joneses, now I should still only have 1 Ratso Rizzo here. So let's go ahead and refresh this. And I do. Same guy. I don't need him in here twice. And if I come over to contact, so let's just take a look at his ID and 2003. So now I'm expecting 2003 2 times here. And if I refresh my data, there he is, and there he is. Now, Ratso Rizzo decides to change his name to Fred. So if I just come in here and I change that to Fred and I save it, so now it's changed it in both places. Whereas before I actually had to go in to each row separately and change the name. So That's pretty basic, but powerful. I could have added a third table, kind of an intermediary table to deal with the emails, and I might still do that, but I think it's okay for now. So I'm getting a little long-winded here. Thanks for watching, and in the next video, we're going to tackle this whole issue of saving your query letter and mapping it to a particular script so that you don't come over here and make a silly mistake by choosing the wrong script that doesn't match up with your query letter. So thanks for watching, and have a good one, and stay safe out there. At the time of this recording, the world's going a little nuts with the coronavirus. So, okay, until the next video, thank you.